Hi everybody and welcome to Simply Scuba. I'm Mark, you guys know me, but I'm joined here with Nick from Dive Saga. Hello Nick.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Or good afternoon, I'm not sure what it is for you.
And who knows when this will go live as well. So if you don't know Dive Saga, they're definitely a channel worth checking out. There'll be a link down in the description below. We had a chat with Nick last week about sort of how to sort of create social media change and all that kind of stuff. But today I'm talking with Nick about becoming a professional scuba diver, because Nick is a platinum grade course director and you run Dive Saga, which is a IDC center.
I run IDCs in two different locations. So I run them in Honduras, in Utila, that's the Caribbean. And then I run 2 per year in Spain, in Mallorca. And Dive Saga is, I call it the professional dive club that unites it all. Everybody, no matter where you graduate, you'll always be part of the same job placement network and the same support circle. Which is a system to ensure longevity in the industry.
Yeah, because that's something that I wanted to talk about. I was reading about Dive Saga, and you're a bit more than just, okay, here's your course, you're now an instructor, bye, off you go. You actually help people then sort of find sort of work as a professional diver, don't you?
Yeah, I think that when you become a scuba instructor, or you make that choice twice, right? Or at least you choose twice what kind of a dive instructor, a dive professional you're going to be. You do that when you choose the program that you're going to partake in, because there is a difference between programs, right? And then you choose that right after you graduate, how you're gonna behave. And I think that I can influence both of those choices, right? I can offer the best possible program, but I can also stay engaged after the program. For me personally, my nightmare is when people graduate and then nothing happens, right? Because people who graduate are obviously, if they find a job, they're gonna be happier, and thus they're gonna spread the word, right? And secondly, I feel like that speaks more to me as an instructor trainer than somebody who just poops out certifications and then puts a platinum plaque on his wall and says, that doesn't really do it for me.
No, that's good. So why did you personally turn to scuba diving as a career? What was your sort of spark moment, as it were? There's a book, and I can't remember the writer, but it's the subtle art of not giving a F. And he says life is about fixing problems. Like your whole life is just a series of problems. And the key to being happy is to find problems that you enjoy fixing. Right. Okay. And so, and that goes to job, to your career choice as well. If you just have to find problems that you enjoy fixing. If people have computer trouble and you're the IT guy and you enjoy fixing those, you'll be significantly happier than that if you hate fixing those problems. And so the problem that I like fixing is that people don't know how to scuba dive and they want to learn how to scuba dive. I enjoy fixing that for you. So that's, I think, for a lot of people, and again, it's not that I don't rank scuba instructor here and, car manufacturer assembly line workers here. Like, if that's what they enjoy doing, then we are both here. And I think that the whole world would be a lot happier if everybody, is able to somehow find their way into a position with problems they enjoy fixing. Yeah, no, that's a really nice way of putting it. In your opinion, what makes scuba diving a career different from sort of anything else? Is it vastly different, or is it just?
I think it's different in the sense that it's very physical, obviously, but there are other physical jobs, right? But it's almost always self-employed. No matter, even if you do work for a dive center, and even if you do on paper, are an employee of a business, your degree of self-sufficiency and self-reliancy that's required of you is way higher than in most jobs. And I enjoy that because it means that you can really, it's so diverse. You can choose so much. You can become, you can be a scuba instructor, but you can be a dive center manager. You can teach technical diving. You can become an underwater photographer. You can run a YouTube channel. There's so many ways to go, within that one career choice. And I think there are very few jobs where that's the case, right? Where you can sort of mold it into whatever you want.
Yeah, because if you're more technically, mechanically minded, you can go more into the sort of equipment manufacturer or equipment servicing, if you do well with sort of people, then you can go down the training routes. Yeah, it's kind of that career tree where you can kind of choose which direction you almost want to go down.
For instance, maybe controversial thing to say immediately, but I don't really get it when people can't make a living out of it, or I don't really get it when people don't succeed in the industry, because there's so many different things to try, or a combination of things, right? Like some of our instructors here at the Dive Center are also Scuba Pro repair technicians, right? So they don't just earn money teaching scuba diving, they also earn money fixing the gear. One of our instructors is also an underwater photographer and designed his own underwater photography program that you can actually take internship training with him. So I think that there's so many ways to diversify and to find your niche, and if you do your due diligence in that, then how is it not the best job in the world if you like scuba diving?
Okay, so for prospective instructors, people thinking of a new career, what is it, in your opinion, what does it take to become a good dive instructor? What does it take?
You need to be good at scuba diving, right? I think that's a fair. Yeah, but believe it or not, that's not always the case. But you need to be good at scuba diving. I think you do need to have a passion for it, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, it's physical labor. Days are long, like 12, 14-hour days are not an exception, depending maybe a bit where you work. And I think, and that's sort of my shtick, the crux of my whole operation, is that it needs to be an active career choice. I think that a lot of people choose this line of work more so as a cop-out. It's like, I don't really want to work, so I'm going to become a scuba instructor. And a lot of the advertisements for, IDCs, instructor courses, dive master courses play into that, right? Like, life on the beach, endless summer, you'll never have to work a day in your life, which I don't subscribe to that idea. You will have to work. In fact, you'll probably have to work harder than the average person, but it will be fixing problems you enjoy solving. And so if you make it an active career choice and you treat it as a real career, then I think that it's super viable.
Yeah, and it's quite. I'm trying to think of the right word, but you can do it for years to come as well. I mean, one of the guys that I used to work for, he was getting into his sort of 70s, but he's still in the water and he's still doing it. He was actually a commercial diver as well. So it's not something that you do in your 20s and your 30s and then you just kind of you find a real job.
Yeah, I think in terms of career longevity, there's a statistic, right, that 80% of scuba instructors don't renew their teaching credential after just 2 years. You can read that statistic in my book, Career in Scuba. Yeah. Shameless plug.
We'll talk about that later.
And so that is an often quoted statistic as like, oh my God, after 2 years, 80% doesn't renew. All that time and money invested is a waste. But the truth is, of course, that on one hand, there's a lot of people who consciously just become a scuba instructor in their 20s. Like you said, they do it for a year, a gap year, or just a little bit, right, globetrotting, and then they fall back into maybe an office job or 9 to 5, and that's fine, right? That's totally okay. And then I think there's the other kind of instructors who indeed can't make it work, right? Who struggle to make a living and who struggle. And I have a pretty good analysis why that is, but we can get into that later.
Okay.
But for the real statistic is actually that after 2 years, 20%, right, is what's left. And so that 20% is like a core, group with experience, with skills, with experience that is, superior to 80% of the competitors because they've been in it for more than 2 years. And so, that's why I think a lot of people end up in those dive shop manager positions, or like yourself, building a whole brand, because after a few years that the circle gets really small and everybody kind of knows everybody, and suddenly it's kind of easy to make connections and to meet people and to make something out of it. So I do think this is something that you can do your whole life, and I do think that it's something that you can make. I make a living out of. I mean, I'm doing really okay. So clearly it's possible.
Yes.
But you do have to treat it as a career, put the work in, and if not after 2 years decide that, this is a lot harder than I thought, I'm out. Well,
yeah, that's it. Because as you said earlier, with all the marketing that goes towards it, it's all fun and sun. Two very pretty people on the beach, and it's like, they're a dive instructor. But yeah, a lot of it is behind the scenes, just filling out paperwork and filling up tanks and doing work. It's
but that's
job.
Every career. Unless you are some kind of trust fund prince or princess, that's gonna be your life. No matter whether you become an IT guy or a dive instructor, doing the work that's what it is. I mean, I think that's a bit naive if you think that there's like a secret formula that nobody knows about. There isn't really.
I wish. Okay, so you've wrote your book about career in scuba diving and sort of how to be a professional professional scuba diver. So if someone wants to be a scuba instructor, without giving away too much of what's in your book, what can you do to prepare yourself if you're thinking about becoming an instructor, you're thinking about signing up for an IDC and an IE? What can you do to sort of make sure that you're ready to become an instructor?
Yeah. So there's a practical side and there's a philosophical side, right? The practical side, you can look that up. Anybody can look up what are the prerequisites, and you take those courses and you hopefully take them from very qualified people so that you get the best possible mentorship. I think it's wise to build up a little bit of a financial cushion, right? And that's for any job, any direction you end up graduating, you might not immediately find a dream job, right? That's sure. Everywhere. And I think from a philosophical standpoint, what you need to do is you need to make a very conscious, premeditated decision about what kind of scuba instructor you're going to be. Because again, if you want to do it for a year, sort of a gap year, that's fine. If you just want to be on the beach, sunsets, flirting, partying, you can do that. I'm not judging anybody, that's fine. But then you have to immediately realize that that's not necessarily the path of longevity, right? And sure. On the other hand, if you are willing and ready to premeditate that decision of, okay, this is my career choice, I'm going to do this and I'm going to give it everything I've got, then you're already ahead of 80% of the applicants, let's say. And I think that a lot of that is also in the choice of dive center, for instance, or the choice of instructor trainer that you go with. I'm going to piss off a lot of people with what I'm about to say next, but I am violently against this free dive master and free IDC internship culture for the very simple reason. I mean, I like to get paid, and I'm assuming that my candidates would like to get paid later. But more importantly, the people that you surround yourself with during your training, those are gonna be your prime examples, right? Those are ideally gonna be the mirrors that you have in front of you of who you want to be. If you surround yourself with the culture of free, I'm working here for free, hauling tanks all day, every day, and then at the end of the ride, my instructor or my instructor trainer is training me for free. What kind of a network is that? Like what kind of a support network do you have? Like, no, you're not paying for the course. He's not receiving pay for the course. The dive center is relying on free labor, and the short-term customers are getting probably not the best service because they're being helped by somebody who also isn't getting paid. So again, what kind of a network is that? And again, I know this is going to piss off a lot of people because I know it's part of some people's business plans, and I don't doubt that there are formulas that are better than others. But ultimately, I think that learning from somebody who knows what they're doing and who is able to make a good living, clearly they know something that you want to know. Clearly they've cracked a formula that works and that you want to apply. So that besides the obvious logistical preparation of getting your prerequisites sorted and getting your finances sorted, thinking for a moment about which direction you want to go with this, I think is very important.
Okay, so on top of that, sort of getting yourself prepared, really knowing that this is what you want to do, you want to go sort of full steam ahead. What else, other than becoming a good diver, what else can you personally do to make yourself more appealing as an instructor for a dive center? What are dive centers looking at when they look through a list of candidates? What makes them go, "Ooh, yeah, that would be quite nice"?
Well, you have to, for starters, you have to make sure you're not just an IDC graduate, right? Everybody who graduates from an IE can teach open water, advanced rescue, dive master, aware PPB. At least in the PADI system, it's like, I'm sure it's similar with different agencies, right? And that's fine, that's great, that's a good start. But then you have to take a hard look at yourself and say, well, what else am I offering? Can I teach in different languages? That could be a plus, right? Do I have a working visa for a certain environment? That could be a plus. Do I have other skills? Am I a social media wizard? Can I build websites? Am I a gear repair technician? That could be a plus. And then what other courses within that agency can I offer? If you're working in the UK, I'm sure being a dry suit instructor is a plus. I mean, I would imagine,
definitely.
Right? And I'm sure there's others that are just regionally very relevant, right? I think you need to also make that investment. I think you also need to make sure that you can do those things, or at least a combination of those things. If you don't speak a second language, well, then so be it. You're not going to fix that in the next month. But there are other ways, for sure, to make your resume more attractive. And I think, secondly, what can you do to best improve your odds is I think you do need to get some experience somehow, somewhere, right? And I'm not saying go work for free, but I do think that you don't necessarily have to be too picky with your first job, because you're not likely going to find that magical position for the rest of your life right away. And maybe it's in the beginning it's more valuable to build up a little bit of street cred, and then work your way into a position that is maybe more ideal to you.
Yeah, because I mean that's kind of how I did it. You just get that experience with students, with dive centers, and you're building up all sorts of experience. And then when it feels right, and you find sort of almost something else, then you can sort of move across. It's but yeah, I definitely agree with your sort of. If you know a second language, definitely boast about it, because that's a huge selling point, especially if they're like a high tourism area, because then you're immediately more valuable to them. Different training courses that you can offer, definitely. For me, diving here in the UK, one of the big almost requirements, it wasn't specifically a requirement, but it was a consideration for me looking at a new instructor, is have you been diving in these types of waters? Because if you've only ever been diving in clear, blue, clean water, then you suddenly come to sort of UK waters where you don't have 20, 30 meters of visibility. You get 5, maybe 10 on a good day. So yeah, if you suddenly move to a new location, just go diving, even if it isn't with students per se.
Ideally, not with students. Yeah, like but you're right. Again, this comes back to doing your due diligence and being honest with yourself and saying, well, can I do this, right? Can I? Yeah. Where do I rank currently in my in the experience scale or the credential scale, and vis-a-vis the job I'm applying for? And that, again, there's nothing wrong with being a newbie. Or not being super experienced, but are you willing to put in the due diligence to indeed go and do a few dives and learn to deal with whatever, it may not be cold water, it could be maybe you're working on a liveaboard and you've never given 24/7 service to people, and like realizing how hard that is. There's a lot of different jobs that are going to require skill sets that you haven't necessarily picked up during your training, and the willingness to engage in that, to learn from that, and to change a little bit is also huge. I cannot stress this enough, how if you get proper training and you have the proper mindset and you write a proper resume, because that's also, you'll be surprised. I don't know about you, but I get a lot of resumes where I'm like number 74 in a CC of like 50 dive centers, and I'm like, well, okay, delete. I really want to work at your place, but I can visibly see you say that to 50 other people. So, but it's true. Like that, a lot of I think you can stack the deck in your advantage by a lot, just by these things that seem. I mean, I think non-divers, if they are still watching it after 10 minutes or whatever, and you watch this video, you might think, really, people do that? But a lot of people do that. No decent resumes, no proper contact information, misquoting, like misnaming their own credentials, like the improper names of the courses they can teach. It's one of my pet peeves. Not properly qualifying or preparing for the environments they want to teach in. Those are all huge things, and they're actually really obvious, and they're ridiculously easy. And I think you're already ahead of or in the front of the queue if you're just willing to cross those T's and dot those I's.
Spend a bit more time in it, and make a world of difference. Okay, so you teach a lot of instructors, and you sort of qualify a lot of instructors. What is your best sort of advice? What is your thing that you tell all of your candidates that would be sort of the best advice about becoming an instructor? What's your sort of Mr. Miyagi kind of quote?
Well, first of all, when you start your training, right, take it. Like, take all of it, embrace it, ask questions, read all the materials over and over, think about it, take it. I mean, again, I do PADI IDCs. You could take other agencies' instructor courses. But regardless of which ones those are, embrace that curriculum, right? You don't have to necessarily love every aspect of it, but they're all constructed in a certain way for good reason, based on research, based on things that work. Embrace that. A lot of people go into it sort of already fighting the system a little bit. Maybe they're upset about how certain fees are unfair or how certain materials aren't good enough. If that's going to be your entry philosophy into, you're dead on arrival. But if just embrace it, right, for all its flaws and all its beauty. And I can always tell some IDCs, I have 2 weeks, because I do 2 full weeks, kind of like full time. Some people are constantly, it's like they're in a straitjacket that they're trying to get out, and it's like, that's not what this is. But these are tools, and the quicker you master those tools, the better you're gonna be. And then again, secondly, once that IDC adventure is over, because that's not all of it, is put on your business suit, right? Maybe you can be like James Bond, where you have your dry suit over your tuxedo. But you always need to have that business suit underneath your wetsuit or underneath your dry suit, because this, to make this work, you're gonna need to be serious. Right after your IDC, sit down, make a resume. I do a lot of resume counseling and how to do, because I obviously see a lot, I'm sure you do too. I can give you a pretty good idea of what an acceptable resume looks like. Do that, right? Start cold calling or cold emailing some dive centers, see if they have interest, right? But do that in a personal way, not in a bulk, email.
I also put people in touch. I mean, I know a lot of dive shop owners, and they're often looking for people or former graduates who are working somewhere, looking for colleagues. But when I put you in touch, take that serious, right? Do your research into that dive center. Give the best possible job interview that you can. Those kind of things make all the difference. They make all the difference. And again, maybe when you start the whole journey, make sure you have a little bit of financial cushioning so that you have the, I think if you come out of your IDC, IE and your bank account is at zero, that's also not great. you need a little bit of cushioning to kind of, as with any industry, by the way, to roll into a job that fits a bit. Huh?
Yeah. Give yourself as much time to find the right position for you. Yeah. Well, wonderful. So you've also written a book that we mentioned earlier, Career in Scuba. So what's the best way to get hold of a copy?
You can either buy it from our friend Jeff Bezos on Amazon, if that's what you want to do, or you can buy it on the DiveSaga.com website. That's another way. Okay. The publisher BookBaby also sells it directly, but maybe we can put a link in the video. That's up to you.
Yeah, we'll pop something down in the description.
And yeah, it's really written both for people who want to get into the industry. It gives a bit of in my eyes, a realistic account of, look, this is what you're getting into. This is what you need to do. And I think actually a lot of what we've just said about resume building and that attitude is in there. It's straight from the book. So it gets you in the right mindset. There's some worksheets in there on building your own resume, like fill in the blanks. There's even a job preparation worksheet in there, like, hey, let's pre-answer these questions before you get asked them. So I think a lot of that is very useful. There's guidance on how to choose your training center or how to choose your instructor, which equipment to choose and how. I think that because it's realistic, that it's a valuable piece of documentation. I think there's also the last chapter is different dive professionals kind of giving their 2 cents, and we have Tom St. George in there. He's an underwater photographer, actually published and quite successful at it. I have Rich Sinowick in there. He owns several dive shops in Michigan, so rebreather instructor trainer. He's a little bit older maybe. So like there's different kinds of people in different places who also put in their 2 cents. So I think that might also, depending on where you're coming from and where you're going to, might be useful input.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much for joining me. If you guys have any questions for Nick, then by all means head over to Dive Saga's channel. We'll pop a link up in the description. And yeah, if you have any sort of questions for myself or Nick, pop them down in the comments below, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.